I want to thank everybody for coming today on what is a very important day for us here at the JCC Rockland, and a very important time in our history. Today for us, we are remembering the 42nd anniversary of the murder of the Munich 11 athletes, coaches, and referees who died at the Olympics in 1972. First, I'd just like to introduce a few people who are here with us today. I want to thank Rabbi Russo from CSI Nyack for being here. I want to thank Rabbi Paula MacDrill from Orangetown Jewish Center. I'd like to welcome Shara Lewis, the chair of the State of Israel Bonds, who's with us, and a strong advocate of the State of Israel. Barry Kantowitz, legislator, the County of Rockland, and Stephanie Hausner, councilwoman from the town of Clarkstown. Also, I really want to thank a couple of special people, and it's not going to mean anything for me, John, I know, so that's okay. But more than 2 years ago, before we hosted the JCC Maccabi Games, JCC Rockland's board made a commitment that when we hosted the games, we would do it in memory of the Munich 11 athletes. And when we talked about having a sculpture on our campus, I need to thank John Lang, who felt very, very strongly about the idea that it was important to have something here, not just a piece of art, it's not just a piece of art, but it represents those 11 athletes. So it's really important when people come to this campus that take a look at the names. It is a beautiful sculpture made by Eric David Laxman that makes a difference, but I especially do want to thank the Langs, Ilsa and John, Ellen and Arthur Wagner, who are with us today, and Bonnie and Alan Elkin, who are with us in spirit as Alan had knee surgery. But I do want to thank all of you for your commitment, not only then, but your continuous commitment for helping us to remember. This summer was a difficult one for Jews everywhere. As missiles rained down from Gaza into Israel, we could only watch and thank God and technology that Iron Dome, Israel's incredible defense system, worked. Meanwhile, Jews in Europe were attacked when protests against Israel turned into anti-Semitic rallies in France, Germany, Belgium, and Spain. And Israel was blasted in the media for defending itself, even while trying to avoid civilian casualties, while Hamas, a Palestinian terrorist organization, got a slap on the wrist in the press. The conflict this summer began with the kidnapping of 3 boys heading home for Shabbat in the West Bank to celebrate with their families. 3 boys who took a ride they should not have and ended up kidnapped and murdered by Hamas for no more reason that they were Jewish. In some ways, the world has not changed all that much. Today we stand here together remembering. We honor the 11 athletes, coaches, and referees of the 1972 Israeli Olympic team who were kidnapped and then murdered on September 5th, 1972, 42 years ago, by members of Black September, a Palestinian terrorist organization. No, sadly, the world has not changed that much, but that does not mean we cannot make a difference, that we cannot keep trying. In fact, we must. We stand here today a little more than 2 years from having hosted the JCC Maccabi Games, and a little less than 2 years until the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro. When we hosted the Games in 2012, we vowed to do right by the Munich 11. We took the cause of their surviving family members all the way to the top. We asked that the International Olympic Committee recognize the terrible injustices of all these years and right it by holding a minute of silence at the opening ceremony of their games in London in memory of these 11 men who wanted to do nothing but compete, but instead went home in coffins. And although we did not gain that minute of silence, we gained so much. We forced the world to remember. We connected our JCC to Israel in a way we had not before, and we learned that as a community, our Jewish one extends around the world. We did something honorable and just for the families of the murdered men, and we made an enduring friendship with Munich widow Ankie Spitzer, the widow of the fencing coach. Andre, who believed in the Olympic spirit of fair play and competition deep in his soul. We also established an enduring relationship with Ilana Romano, wife of Yosef. As we head towards the 2016 Olympics, we must commit ourselves once again to remembering the Munich 11. We need the world to remember the terrible results of terrorism. And this time, we need to succeed. When the IOC holds their games in 2016, we will show them that silence is deafening. The line we can draw from the kidnapping and murder of the Munich athletes to the 3 boys killed this summer is not a very long one. It is a line that is riddled with acts of terror, anti-Semitism, and brutality aimed at the Jewish people. We cannot afford to back down, and remembering may be our most potent weapon. I also want to recognize Steve Rosenzweig, president of the JCC as well, who's with us today. And now I would like to introduce a special friend of mine, Joe Allen. Joe, when we started talking about the JCC Maccabi Games in 2012, Joe is a senior vice president for Active International. And Joe didn't just simply say, okay, it's very nice, let's simply host the games, let's support the games. Joe said, let's take the time to really remember. Let's do a movie on the experience. Joe was with us from day one on this campaign. Joe will continue with us. So I want to welcome my good friend Joe Allen to say a few words.
Thank you very much. It's now a little more than 22 million minutes since the dark days in Munich. And dark they were. There was enough darkness to go around in that experience for all the dark days in the rest of time. It was dark because people saw this coming. The psychological profile, 26 points that were created to talk about what could happen in Munich, included item number 21, which said there could be a kidnapping and a hostage taking and a cataclysmic end to a story. Item 21, and what the IOC and the Bavarian government did, instead of taking the steps to make it better, they decided to rewrite the report and downsize the element of danger. So there was no element of danger, or very little. The Israelis knew that, they objected to that, they voiced their objection, it went unheard, and that day, you know what happened that day. It was a dark day for the hatred that exists in this world. as the Palestinian commandos came in and implemented the activities that led to the deaths of the 11. It happened pretty much the way the psychological profile had it. It became very dark by the most incompetent police response maybe the world has ever seen, with snipers with no rifles, darkness at the airport with no portable lights, no equipment to be brought in, no concern for human life at all, because they wanted to remove the scourge of a kidnapping away from the Olympic Games. So they sacrificed all so these games could go on. That the Israelis agreed to keep their team there for the night until the ceremony and then take them home was one thing. The fact that few other countries were willing to do the same is a loud voice as well. It was dark in the years following Munich, as the International Olympic Committee would not give Anki Spitzer, Ilana Romano, and the others the open door to making this right with a minute of silence. That darkness still continues to today. And it's a darkness that's carried inside the hearts of Israelis as well, as they bear the burden of what if we would have done something different? What if we would have sent a better security team or commandos to come in? It did change the nature of the way Israel looked at security, from one of reaction to one of advance notice. And as David so eloquently stated, as much as the line can be drawn from Munich to the 3 kidnappings, the line could be drawn from that day in Munich to Iron Dome and the other incredible, absolute technological advances that we saw during this last conflict. But darkness can only go so far before light emerges from that. And 2 years ago, when this project began, the light began to emerge. It was a near impossible task, when you look back on it, to try and get the International Olympic Committee to change their mind. But none of you accepted the impossible nature of it. It was go forward. They might have had the IOC on their side, but we had David on our side. They might have not been willing to listen to the people here, but they were going to hear Steve Rosenzweig, and they were going to listen to Mickey Leader whether they wanted to or not. And Steve Gold was going to have his piece. And I stood there in the offices of the International Olympic Committee with Dr. Rocha, carrying a petition of 110,000 names, and I got to walk in with that petition along with David and the other friends we had, and to sit down and to say to this man, here's 110,000 signatures of people all around the world who say, you're wrong, sir. And once we got to leave, Anki and Ilana said it a little differently, and a little more colorfully than that. But at the end of the day, they didn't listen to David or to Steve or to Steve or I or Mickey, but they heard it. They heard it around the world, and it began right here. So what I take away from that is that there is no mountain that's too high to climb, and there is no goal that's not worth attaining. We went for it. We gave it everything we got, and we came within this close of getting it done. And this close was a lot better, in my estimation, than had they done that, because now the world continues to know and understand what the lack of minute of silence means for this Olympic Games that will never, ever get rid of the taint of that horrible tragedy until they do a minute of silence. So we're ready. We're ready for what comes in the next couple of years. We're not giving in. Anki and Ilana have another round in them, and we have another round in us, and we'll be coming back to make sure that this time around the International Olympic Committee does the minute of silence. So it's been the privilege of my life to be involved in this project, to be with the people that are here and the people I've met along the way, and we will be allies and friends forever. Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce my good friend and the rabbi of Orangetown Jewish Center, Rabbi Craig Sheff, who also has coached for a number of years our JCC Maccabi teams, to make some comments and share some covenant.
You can imagine the scene if you've been a part of it, or maybe even if you haven't, the picture can be in your mind. 1,200 athletes, thousands of spectators, all rejoicing at coming together to celebrate being Jewish and being athletes, and the lights go out. And the darkness is illuminated only by a date, September 5th, 1972. And for the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, our children are subjected to images and to words and to our memories that are not a part of their experience. And they are asked to internalize this in some way, in the way in which they participate in the Maccabi Games as Jews and as athletes. Terrible images of young people being killed for no other reason than that they were Israeli, that they were Jewish. So what lesson do we ask for these young boys and girls coming home from games where they simply want to play and celebrate? Well, for the athletes at the games, it's a bit shocking. Perhaps it's a bit of a wake-up call. Perhaps it's a reminder of all that they do not know, and thank God, all that they will never experience in their lives. But for Rockland's athletes, when they return here to the campus, I hope and pray that they and we, every time we enter this building and pass by this magnificent monument, are reminded of the sacrifices of what it means to be a Jewish person in the world. They're reminded of yesterday's Torah portion and the words from the closing of the reading, Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek, baderech b'tzeitchem min Mitzrayim. Remember what Amalek did to you as you forged your path out of Egypt. How the women and the children were attacked from behind. How those who straggled and were not taken care of were vulnerable and were attacked from the rear. If there can be a lesson out of this for these athletes, for our children, and for ourselves, may it be that our teams should never lose sight of what it means to be part of a community. That is, no one should be left to be behind. No one should be left on the floor, but rather they should be picked up by their teammates. They should be cared for at all times, caring for one another and the person standing next to them. They should care for their opponents as Jews competing, as we did this past summer on so many occasions. And finally, that they should go out into the world realizing that even in the most peaceful of moments, even in those times when we were only meant to be celebrating, we must always be vigilant, because unfortunately there are enemies in the world who would seek to take advantage of our weakness and of our complacency. So may we never be complacent. May we never be weak. May we always be strengthened by our commitment to our identity, and perhaps most importantly, by our commitment to each other. And may this memorial, and may the memory of those who we remember this day, always be a reminder of the kinds of lives that we must live as part of a Jewish community, as part of a light to all nations. Amen. I'm going to recite the memorial blessing, the El Malei Rachamim, the traditional memorial prayer that is recited in memory of those whom we call into our hearts at this time. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hamtzeh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina B'malot Kedoshim Otehorim Kizovar Rakia Masirim את נשמות כל אלה שהזכרנו היום לברכה שהלכו לעולמם בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם Ana bal harachamim, astirem besetek nafecha leolamim, utzeror bitzror achayim, et nishmotehem. Adonai hu nachalatam, v'yanuchu v'shalom al mishkevotehem, v'nomar amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to those whom we remember this day. May their souls be bound up in the bond of the living. The Lord is their portion. May they rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. We sound the shofar every day during these days leading up to Rosh Hashanah, except on Shabbat. May the sound of the shofar be one that always reminds us to remember those who have shaped us, to remember who we are at our core, and to remember what God expects of us in the world. Please rise.
Thank you. Thank you again, Rabbi Sheff, for your powerful words. And it's very important. Hopefully all of you will take those words with you as you move forward as well. Now I would like to ask our athletes, our past JCC Maccabi athletes, to each speak on behalf of the 11 who died in 1972.
My name is Brian Schnapper, and I played on the Maccabi baseball team. Today I remember Yosef Romano, a weightlifter from the Israeli team. May his memory be for a blessing.
My name is Jared Sheff, and I played on the Maccabi basketball team. Today I remember Amitzur Shapira, a track coach for the Israeli team. May his memory be for a blessing.
My name is Josh Ronwitz, and I played on the Maccabi basketball team. Today I remember David Berger, a weightlifter and the only American on the Israeli team. May his memory be for a blessing.
My name is Robert Schultz, and I played on the Maccabi basketball team. Today I remember Andre Spitzer, a fencing coach for the Israeli team. May his memory be for a blessing.
My name is Dylan Fiden, and I played on the basketball team. Today I remember Mark Slavin, a wrestler for the Israel team. May his memory be for a blessing.
My name is Adam Millman, and I played on the tennis team. Today I remember Moshe Weinberg, a wrestling coach for the Israeli team. May his memory be for a blessing.
My name is Michael Strom, and I played on the Maccabi baseball team. Today I remember Yokov Springer, a weightlifting referee. May his memory be for a blessing.
My name is Jack Mandel, and I played on the Maccabi baseball team. Today I remember Yosef Gutfriend, a referee. May his memory be for a blessing.
My name is Brandon Koenig, and I swam on the swim team for the Maccabi Games. Today I remember Zev Friedman, a weightlifter for the Israeli team. May his memory be for a blessing.
My name is Jason Sheff, and I played on the basketball team. Today I remember Kahat Shor, a shooting coach for the Israeli team. May his memory be for a blessing.
My name is Sean Lewis, and I played on the tennis team. Today I remember Eliezer Hoffman, a wrestler for the Israeli team. May his memory be for a blessing.
Please join with me for a minute of silence in memory of the 11 fallen athletes, coaches, and referees. Thank you. Rabbi Chef, if you could join with me. We are going to conclude with the singing of the Israeli national anthem, Hatikva.
Kolot aleva penima nefesh Yehudi homiha ulefate mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia Od lo avda tikvatenu Hatikva bat shnot alpayim Liyotam chofshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim Liyotam chofshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim.
Thank you all for joining us today.